YouTube, welcome to another video. In today's video, it's map day for the E36. Obviously by this time it has already been done, so I'm going back in time. I did document the drive on the way there and talked about everything, so I don't want to do too much talking now. I've also got a dyno video. Unfortunately, the dyno video I'm going to include is not when it made peak power. That was just purely to the fact that I was sitting in the boot and another lad was recording it. And then when it hit peak power, it was still spinning up on the dyno, so he ended up having to sit in the boot as well. I didn't have the camera set up as everything I wanted, so you'll have to make do with the dyno run where it made about 350, 360 there, when in the end it actually made, you'll have to wait and see. But yeah, let's get to it. Today is the day I'm gonna go get the E36 mapped. Running late as expected, that's just me, I'm not really a morning person. But I'm in the R32. I'm going to go down to the unit and get the E36. Something I didn't explain before is when I said about it's running on K data, it's running on a standalone ECU, so it's on a base map. I have drove it a couple of miles here and there just to test it out, make sure everything's alright, but now I've got to drive an hour and a half to Dale at Bailey Performance, which I've not drove it anywhere near that far, so fingers crossed that I even make it there. I don't know if you guys can even hear me because it's loud in here. Obviously it's got a single mass flywheel and it's got polybush engine mounts, so the sound coming through the car is ridiculous. But I'm on the motorway, hour and a half driving this, man, on a base map. Just hoping it don't get too hot either. Got the fan on a switch, so I've got to keep turning it on and off when I got the motorway and stuff, but yeah. I'll keep you updated, see if you hear that. Right, we're halfway there, 45 minutes in, on the M6 near Birmingham, just on the outskirts of Birmingham. It's going alright so far. I don't know if you can hear a word I'm probably saying because it's so loud in here, but yeah, it actually driving better than I thought it would on the motorway because it's so wide. It's got massive spaces on it, it's got massive wide wheels on it, it's got quite a lot of camber as well, so I thought it was going to sway a bit over the road. It's actually quite planted on the motorway. I think on the motorway it actually drives better than it does on the street, like lower 30 mile an hour road. Yeah, something smells hot, but coolant temperature's fine, I'm not getting any smoke or anything, so I don't think anything's on fire. Yeah, fiberglass bonnet is like all over the place, it's looking. But it's got 4 pins in it, so hopefully I don't flick off, especially on the motorway. Right, got 25 minutes left, and it's still running fine, temperature's fine, smells pretty much fine, I can smell it England a little bit. I was worried about fuel as well, because the tank in the boot only holds 30 litres, and obviously being on base map is overfueling a bit, so I was hoping, I'm kind of thinking I might make it, I'm hoping I do. It's been a funny journey, and the amount of people that pulled up next to me like giving the thumbs up or smiles and that's quite surprising, because it's not kind of your average car, and a fair few dirty looks from a few Karens as well. I had one a minute ago, she like pulled up right at the side of me, she's in the passenger seat, she's looking at me, I looked at her and smiled, just like, give that disgusted head shake. So, who are you judging? You're in the Citroen Picasso, you're a passenger. You fucking got the right to shake your head at me. That's always, you know what, that's always the best thing. You know, when someone that don't like you, just smile at them, pisses them off, proper pisses them off. Yeah. Get a proper car, fuck you. On the way back, it exceeded expectations. I was happy to make 400, it made 420, £16 a boost, and everything went sweet really. I had some problems with the wastegate. It was meant to have a 14 psi spring in it, and then I had a 3-port max solenoid to up it more. Turns out it didn't have a 14 psi spring in at all, it had a 7 psi spring. The max solenoid it wasn't enough to stop the back pressure opening the wastegate, so it was only making half a bar of boost. He had a look for another spring. He had a spring that upped it and slightly, but it weren't enough. But luckily, he had a 4-port max solenoid, so we switched the 3-port solenoid to the 4-port, which puts more pressure to the bottom that keeps it closed. We did that, and then it was fine after that. So for a budget build, for that to be the only problem, more than happy. Yeah, shout out Dale at Bailey Performance, my top guy. As soon as we got to that problem, worked with it straight away, sorted it out, went all the way through, and now we're making 420 crank. It was about, can't remember off the top of my head, it was about 366 wheel horsepower. Might be a little bit more than that on the last one, I can't really remember, but yeah, about 360, 370 for the wheels, 420 crank, which for a shitbox E36, man, you can't complain. So it made it back, made good power, made 420 crank, made 366 to the wheels, which I'm more than happy with. I just ideally wanted to make 400. And the biggest thing I'm happy about is just the fact that there was only minor problems with it. With it being a budget build, I was worried the engine might blow up, the turbo might shit itself, maybe the wastegate wouldn't work at all, etc. Looking at it, everything was fine. The only problems I had was the wastegate was meant to have a 14 psi spring in it. It turned out it had a 7 psi spring. Like an idiot, I forgot to take the spare springs with me. So Dad had a look around, tried to find a spring that would fit. We did find one, but it only upped it by about 2 psi, which wasn't good enough. Luckily, he had a 4-port max solenoid in stock. I had a 3-port max solenoid. We switched that out. All that does is it puts pressure to the bottom of the wastegate, stops it from opening. We did then manage to make 16 pounds of boost, which got to the power that I've just said. The only other problems we had was the turbo feed was weeping slightly. It was only slight, but since then I fixed that, so that problem was sorted. The only other thing we had was 2-step. We set 2-step with putting no lift shifts at the end. Unfortunately, the clutch switch in the car, the genuine E36 one, works backwards to the way K-Data and Megasquirt want to see it. So when you've got the clutch down, it's going right around the revs. And when you've got the clutch up, it's hitting the secondary rev limiter. So obviously I can't drive it like that. So for now I have turned it off. But before I turned it off, I did get a couple of videos of it spitting flames out the back working on 2-step, which I'll include. And also when I got back, I took it round to the estate roundabout, spun it round a couple of times, did a little smoke show, which you're about to see now.